Hey everybody, CO, and welcome to Comics and Dragons. I'm Lance White Eagle, and today we're going to be discussing what is D&D. Now, Dungeons and Dragons has been around for quite a while now, since the 1970s, and I think most everybody has heard of it, in passing at least. But I've found that not a lot of people actually know what Dungeons and Dragons is. I think there's a lot of confusion that comes along with the hobby, and a good amount of misconceptions, really. So let's jump kind of right into it. Dungeons and Dragons (D&D) is a tabletop role-playing game, a TTRPG, produced by Wizards of the Coast. It was originally done by a company called TSR, and that is kind of the dictionary definition of it. But for most people, that doesn't tell you anything. um, so we're going to try to explain it a little bit better. The best way to do it, I think, is, when we were kids, all of us all of us went outside. We played pretend. With me and my cousin and my friends, it was generally Ninja Turtles or X-Men. You'd run around in the backyard, um, pretending that you were Wolverine, or if you were cool like me, you were Gambit, because you know Wolverine's too mainstream. Um, and that's basically that's basically what Dungeons and Dragons is. It's adult pretend, um, and that sounds a little hinky. Adult pretend, um, but hey, if you guys want to put that in your game, like, have at it, have at it. Just um, don't expect me to come. Um, but no, it's a game of cooperative storytelling. You sit down at a table with a dungeon master, which acts as kind of the director and lead writer for a story. The other people at the table are players, are operating characters who will inform, change, and shape this world that the DM has curated. In a good game, anyway. In a good game, it should feel like it is everybody's story. And there are rules. There are rules in place to kind of determine success and failure. But failing isn't necessarily losing. There is no winning and losing in Dungeons and Dragons. You don't win D&D. You don't lose at it. You are making a story, and both failure and success plays a role in every story. And so it's important to have both. So the rules are in place to give a chance of failure for certain tasks. And you determine this using a set of dice, a set of polyhedral dice. And I'll do a future video kind of more in depth on dice, because if you're not if you're not into tabletop RPGs, the dice are a little weird, different than most people are accustomed to. So I'm gonna do a video kind of going through and explaining, like, the different dice that are used for Dungeons and Dragons. But it's a game where you are kind of sharing an imaginative, creative world. Stephen King had said in The Body, I believe it was, which was adapted into Stand By Me. He had a line in there that says, "The best friends that you'll ever have," and I'm paraphrasing, but your best friends in your life are the ones you had when you were 12. And I think for most people that's pretty true. But there's a reason for that. It's because at that age we haven't learned yet to keep people out. Um, when you're 12 or under, you let people into this internal imaginary world that you have. And because you've shared something like that with them, that relationship is special. And that's kind of what you get out of Dungeons and Dragons. Um, a lot of groups are comprised of friends or family, but you can find strangers to play with. And I think you'd find in a pretty short time that those strangers will become good friends of yours, because you're sharing experiences and you're sharing your creativity, and that's something that's really important and is lacking in a lot of people's day-to-day lives. We don't have, as adults, much cause in general to use our imagination to flex those creative muscles, unless you're in a very kind of small profession, like unless you're a writer or an actor or something along those lines. We have no means of being creative anymore, of being imaginative, and Dungeons and Dragons gives you an outlet for that. It lets you play, and that's, like I said, that's something that's really important. It's important to us as people. That's kind of just an ingrained part of being a human, I think, is having a creative side, is having an imagination. So, it's a great way to foster that and to do it with people you like, and to make memories and to laugh. Every good D&D game, I think, should involve a lot of laughter. And every good campaign, like if you do a really good campaign and you get people to laugh, but you can get them to almost cry, like that's gold. That's my goal anyway. Maybe I'm mean, I don't know, but cry in a good way, because they're invested in this story. Not on when not on YouTube. I'm a storyteller. I do Native American legends, and I'm also a writer. And I think that's the goal with any epic story, is that you have these kind of emotional, these ups and downs. You have to have humor, you have to have drama, you have to have some sorrow in there, because that's what makes a good story. And I know when I was younger, I kind of came into D&D late. In my early 30s is when I started getting into it, because for a long time my friends and I, we were always geeks, but like secret geeks. um, but we'd be like, well, we're comic book guys or video game guys. We're not those kind of nerds. And it turned out I'm that kind of nerd. And I think really most of us actually are, if you give it a chance and you find out. And it's not just for, like the basement dweller crowd, or the people like the characters you see on Big Bang Theory. If you're like that, Like, there's no problem with that. Like, have fun with your D&D game. They're probably really interesting sessions, but that's not just who it's for. Dungeons and Dragons is for everybody. Right now, there's a bunch of professional athletes, actors, musicians, directors, producers, astronauts, professional wrestlers who are big Dungeons and Dragons fans. Stephen Colbert is a D&D guy. Uh, Deborah Ann Wall from Daredevil, Joe Manganiello, The Big Show from wrestling, The Big Show, and Brian Cutler are avid, Dungeons and Dragons players. And I think you'll find that imagination, creativity is universal. It's not pigeonholed into a certain type of person. So let's get into a little bit how to get started in Dungeons and Dragons. Now, as I mentioned earlier, D&D started in the 1970s with a company called TSR. This is one of the first Dungeon Master guides. This cover did great to kind of dissuade the, misconception of it being an evil demonic game, because it's really not. It's whatever you make it. But currently we are in the 5th edition of Dungeons and Dragons. That's what I play. That's what I think most people are playing now. Kind of shortened to 5e. This is the player's handbook. This is kind of the rules and everything really you need to know to be a long-term Dungeons and Dragons player. And don't let the rules bog you down. It's not a big book. If you're a reader, it's not a big book. Especially, I'm a Stephen King fan, and like compared to The Stand, that's a little book there. But it is dense with information, and there's a lot of math, and there's a lot of confusing terms when you're not accustomed to this type of game. But don't let that get to you. Those things are secondary. Rules and numbers and modifiers are secondary in Dungeons and Dragons to the story and the enjoyment of the people at the table. So don't get bogged down with the rules. If you want to play and you have a dungeon master who's going to run it for you, who's a nice person and knows you're new, you don't even have to read them. Honestly, like I've encouraged some of my new players, like don't bother with the rules. I'll let you know. You tell me what you want to do, and I'll tell you how we go about doing it. As far as dice rolls and things like that go. So don't worry about that. And if you want to get into it, if you want to give it a shot, but you don't want to invest, the price for admission for Dungeons and Dragons is nothing. You can go online right now to the Wizards of the Coast website and download the basic rules for free. They also have pre-made characters on there, character sheets. They have everything you need except for a set of dice. And if you don't want to, spend the $6-7 on a set of dice, you can download a free dice roller app. And that's all you need. That's all you need to get started and to see what it's like. If you have kind of seen Dungeons and Dragons featured in like Stranger Things or Community or some of those properties, and you've decided that you actually want to invest a little bit to get going, to see what it is, I would suggest, and I'm going to show you some products here. I don't I don't work for Wizards of the Coast. I don't have any kind of sponsorship or anything yet. But if you're listening, Wizards, I will shill for products. That's mostly a lie. But I'm just going to show you some things I like, some suggestions to get you guys started. What I started out with was this right here, the Dungeons and Dragons starter set for 5th edition. This box here has everything that you need to get going and to play for a good couple of months, I'd say. It has an adventure in there. It's got a set of dice. It's got pre-made characters, so you don't have to really go into the details of character creation if you don't want to. And the adventure is good. It's got a kind of smaller version of the rule book in here. And like I said, that'll get you a few months of play. And the adventure is fun. I've run this for people 2 or 3 times now. And I think everybody has had a good time going through it. And it really does a good job of kind of easing you into Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, and like I said, that's what I started with, and it's a really good option. You also have a little bit newer, the Essentials kit, which is kind of an upgrade in a way to the starter set. It is a different adventure, and I have not ran this adventure personally. I haven't actually even read through it because a friend of mine is going to be, or is in the process of running it right now, and I'm a character in it, so I didn't actually read the adventure, but I picked up the Essentials kit. It has everything you need in here as well. I think there's actually a little more in this than is in the starter set. I think this has a Dungeon Master screen that the starter set doesn't have. All these box sets contain a set of dice, and yeah, just open it up, read through it, and you are ready to go. They also have, if you are a Stranger Things fan, they have a Stranger Things starter set, which has an adventure of about the same length. It's kind of Stranger Things themed, I do believe. As you can see, this one is not actually opened. So I haven't actually looked at the adventure yet. It does have character sheets. It's got dice. It's got a couple of minis of, if you can see that, the monster from the show, the Demogorgon, they call it in the show. But I haven't opened it yet. I received it as a gift, and I thought, oh, maybe I should keep that, wrapped up to, increase its collector's value or whatever. But, I'm not going to sell my stuff. I like my stuff. I like opening it up and messing around with it. So I'll probably be opening that up soon and looking through that adventure. And when I do, I might put something up and let you guys know what I think. But I've heard good things about it. It also, like I said, with all these box sets, you're going to get an adventure, you're going to get the rules, you're going to get dice, and you're going to get a few months of play out of it, depending on how often and how long your sessions last. They also have a Rick and Morty starter set that I don't have here. But that one looks pretty fun, especially if you're a Rick and Morty fan. And those are really all you need. They'll run you about, I think, somewhere between like 15 and 20 bucks usually. Which isn't bad for 2 months of entertainment, for hours and hours of entertainment. And sessions, there are some people who say, oh, like our Dungeons and Dragons sessions are 2 hours and that's it. We sit down at 6 o'clock, we're finished at 8. And I don't know who these people are. These are just online people, because All of our sessions run like 4 hours plus, like 4 hour minimum. So it is a good chunk of time you have to set aside, but it's worth it, and that time goes by really quick. That's why our sessions last so long, is because you don't even realize that, it's been 5 hours that you've been playing, because you're having fun. You're having fun with your friends and your family. In my personal game, in my home game, we have 3 generations of my family play regularly. Um, and the age range for our group is late teens, early 20s to later 60s. There's no age limit on having fun. There's no age limit on imagination and pretending, and there shouldn't be. Don't impose one on yourself. So if you guys are interested in Dungeons and Dragons, give it a shot. If you like Game of Thrones, if you've enjoyed any video game RPG that's ever come out, give Dungeons and Dragons a shot. If you enjoy Lord of the Rings, um, you'll find something that you like in there, and it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't. That's kind of the cool thing. One of the cool things about it is Dungeons and Dragons can be whatever you want it to be. It is fantasy based. There are other systems that do, I think, a little better for things like science fiction or Western themes. But if you want to run a game that's more soap opera like, you can do that in there. If you want to run like a high action game, you can do that. If you want to do politics and spies and things like that, you can very easily do that in Dungeons and Dragons. And we're gonna talk more about D&D on this channel. I mean, it's in the title of the channel, so we're gonna do quite a few videos on Dungeons and Dragons because I like talking about it. I get a kick out of it. We might do some story synopsis of our campaigns, things like that. I may do some Dungeon Master tips, but if you're looking for a resource for that right now, I'd suggest you check out Matt Colville here on YouTube. He has a great series on being a Dungeon Master, and he's really, really interesting, really insightful. He too doesn't get bogged down with rules and things like that. He's talking more from a creative standpoint of dungeon mastering, which is really what's most important. If you're interested in checking out D&D and watching people play and seeing what it's like, there are a large number of resources for that. My personal favorite is Critical Role. Any critters will recognize some of the stuff in the background from there. It's a live play Dungeons and Dragons show. Acquisitions Incorporated is another really good one. I think that's kind of the official Wizards of the Coast game. Rivals of Waterdeep is a really fun campaign. So yeah, and those are all available on YouTube. I might jot down some of the suggestions in the description below. But yeah, if you guys are interested in Dungeons and Dragons, if you are players, if you want to play, let me know in the comments below. If there's any videos specifically that you would like to see discussed, drop those down there too. Like I said, I have quite a few videos in mind that I'm going to be working on here shortly, but always open to suggestions. Yeah. So with that, I'm glad to see you guys. I'm glad to see that the channel's getting some response already, and that's super cool. So be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you want notifications, click on the little bell thing by the subscribe button. Our next video is going to be comic book related. It's going to be kind of an introduction, a primer to comic books before we jump into some of my favorite storylines and series. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to be coming soon, probably this week, if not today. And going forward, I'm going to shoot for probably 1 or 2 videos a week. This week, I'm going to try to put a little more out just to get things started. So I hope to see you guys back here. I look forward to reading your comments. And until next time, happy trails, and thanks for watching Comics and Dragons.